All right, folks, welcome to another edition of Outspoken. I'm Dan Sileo. What a week. We are in the final stretch run. Right now, the exhibition season for the National Football League. 53-man rosters will be set on Sunday, and then we will be a week away from the startup of the National Football League. How about this weekend? We got college football right around the corner, and college football this year could be one of the greatest years that we've ever seen with all the turmoil that we've seen in the offseason. No question about it. Incredible stuff. Guys, fire the cannons. Guys, I got to tell you flat out, 4 years ago, there was a mistake that was made in Cleveland. And that mistake was hiring and signing of Deshaun Watson. It was a mistake then with all those allegations of sexual harassment. It's a mistake 4 years later with 1 year remaining on that $230 million fully guaranteed contract. Look, when you get into a bed with a snake, you're going to get bit. And this is exactly what went on the entire 4 years. 19 starts and some of the most pathetic football from one of the most pathetic human beings the NFL has ever seen. I've never seen a guy that is so oblivious to the surroundings around him. You think you're going to go into a city like Cleveland and you're going to start barking at the dog pound and the dog pound's not going to bark back? How are you not plugged in to your own fan base? Deshaun Watson here, responding to the people booing him for his horrible play.
Man, I didn't have no reaction. I think the biggest thing is, I think you guys know too, and I think the whole world knows. It has nothing to do about the performance. It's a little bit personal than that. So, I think it's a disrespectful thing. Yeah, I'm gonna keep whatever I feel with me and my family internally on how I feel about that. And yeah, just move on.
But don't you think, Deshaun, that winning and playing better would eliminate some of that booing?
Last time I played on this field, I tore my Achilles, and that same fan base, they cheered when I got hurt. So, does that have to do with? What does that have to do with anything about performance?
This guy is just not smart. Bro, where are we going here with that? Your performance has been pathetic. People will overcome anything when it comes to players performing. Dude, if you're going to try to go out there and sell the point that you're a good human being, and if you don't play well, you're not going to get your ass booed in a city like Cleveland with that fan base? Dude, they've been looking for a quarterback since Bernie Kosar. What a pathetic person, performance, all of that. And then here's what you do. You're setting him up for failure. You want out of that contract. You want to be able to get out of that deal. So you know what you do? You do the smart thing here. You start him. You can't go from Shador back to Deshaun. You've got to go from Deshaun to Shador. So basically what you're doing here is, here's a 2-week audition. You got 1 more year remaining. They can't get out of the contract right now because if they did, it'd be $86 million against your salary cap. So what do? They're setting him up for failure. Under what light do you think the Cleveland Browns are going to be a good football team after trading away Myles Garrett? I get it. You got Jared Verse and you've got some future stuff to go, but you got Jimmy Haslam as your owner. You're not going anywhere with that franchise. You know why? Because it's the Browns. It was a bad move 4 years ago, and nothing's changed. You got a bad dude in the building, and now you're potentially handing it off to Shador. Hey, folks, they're looking to line up Arch Manning here. You're going to put Shador Sanders in a starting position who's not qualified to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. 42 different quarterbacks have played that position in Cleveland since they put the team back there as an expansion team 24 years ago. Where do you think in your right mind you're going to get this right? Unreal. Andrew Berry, the general manager, sat there and thought this was a good idea 4 years ago. Everyone hated it. And here we are again. heading into the final year of that awful contract that will go down as the worst contract in NFL history, the Deshaun Watson story will end. Unreal. All right. So let's slide over to the inevitable. Wow. Thank you. What an epiphany. The Pro Bowl games have now been eliminated. Hey, thank God. Watching guys play touch football. Hey, then again, though, we're kind of trending that way now with the wussification of the National Football League where you can't hit anybody any longer. You can't tell me, get this, there's two things in sports right now that are funny. The WNBA can't tell me what the W is, and when it comes to the WNBA, what the W means, and in the NFL, you can't tell me what a catch is. You can't tell me what anything is when it comes to hitting people in the National Football League. So you got rid of the Pro Bowl games. Wow. Great. Nobody cared. It's clearly one of the worst events in pro football history. Oh, and by the way, this used to be an iconic event. This used to mean something to be named to the Pro Bowl. So get this now. 88 players are going to get participation awards for being named to the Pro Bowl now. So now we have participation medals being handed out in the NFL. 88 Pro Bowlers? How about the best 22? How about making being named a Pro Bowler matter again? If you want to eliminate the sorry-ass game or the sorry-ass Pro Bowl games, great. Those things were stupid anyway. But being named to a Pro Bowl mattered in the past. It was a tremendous honor. Hell, I posted something over on my social media account that I was named to a Pro Bowl ballot. That was a tremendous honor for me to be on that ballot at one time. That was a great honor that NFL players revered, being named to a Pro Bowl and being named All-Pro. That was awesome. 88 participation medals now will be passed out to players being named to that team. There's going to be no alternates, thank God. How many times do we see guys that were the fifth alternate being named to a Pro Bowl? And for God's sake, people like Shedeur Sanders were named to the Pro Bowl. It meant nothing. You had Gardner Minshew a couple years ago being named to that team. Now maybe, at least, even though they are participation medals, maybe it will matter a little bit. Make no mistake about it. The Pro Bowl games became obsolete when nobody wanted to play in the game. The game back in the day mattered. You had a guy like Sean Taylor knocking the bejesus out of people when he was in that game. The punter going up the sideline and him decleating that kid. People loved playing in that game. People loved competing. People used to love the baseball all-star game, Rose rounding third, taking out Ray Fosse at the plate. Those games at one time were iconic when it came to their respected sports. Because of television, because of the money and all the things that go with it, the league has been able to basically sell everything and every asset that they have. Listen, I give the NFL tremendous kudos on how they go out and how they make business. Look what they do with the NFL draft. Look at what they do with all the scenarios when it comes to understanding what it takes to move your product. I get it. All right. Our great friends at Morgan & Morgan, the number one injury law firm in all of America for a reason, with over $20 billion recovered. Folks, there is no firm like it in America. Tell you about the family in Pennsylvania that was initially offered $650K. They got nearly $30 million in settlement. Or the family in Florida that was initially offered $350,000. They got nearly $12 million in settlement. Go to forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. That's forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. And do me a favor, you tell them Big Sills sent you. Look, final exhibition week. A lot of teams are looking to make their 53. There's a lot of storylines as we prep up for the opening week of the National Football League season.
It's usually a two-horse race, Houston or Jacksonville, with Indy on the outside looking in. We're going to find out, I think, rather quickly in the first month because the scheduling is absolutely brutal this year. And do yourself a favor. Now is the time to start prepping. You talk about contests, Craig, right? Survivor is all about planning.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
I do not think that history suggests the best thing for a quarterback is to start week one. Obviously, you need reps, but we have seen guys sit and benefit from it. I think Anthony Richardson might have a completely different, couldn't have been any worse if the Colts didn't play him his rookie season as the rawest quarterback ever drafted. That didn't help.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
His height, how hard he could throw it, didn't matter. How do you communicate it? How do you look at these guys in the face? An old 10-year vet, right guard over there, and a 9-year tackle is been. How you gonna look that old man in the face and convince him, hey guys, we're gonna get ready to go down the field. We're gonna score here. Because that's what the great ones do. They walk in the huddle and everybody goes, okay, it's time, let's go.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo, only on SportsGrid.
Ohtani, he's going to be the MVP. The PCA argument, I completely understand. If he ends up winning it, I'm not going to be surprised. And I do think it'll be somewhat of the fatigue as well.
Yeah, I can't imagine looking back, Tom, you and I, 10 years and talking about a player in baseball doing what Ohtani's doing and not winning the MVP. I mean, it seems crazy to me.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Got to tell you, man, Sileo sideline scoop here. There's going to be a lot of storylines heading into the National Football League's regular season here. Final exhibition weekend. You got to set your 53-man roster by Sunday. And there's going to be a lot of storylines. Obviously, in Thursday's slate for tonight, you see Steelers and Bills, Patriots and Browns, 49ers and Raiders, Rams and Chargers. Let's start there with the Steelers and Bills. What is Aaron Rodgers going to bring to the table for the Steel City, along with Mike McCarthy? Is this like a stopgap to the next head coach and to the next quarterback? I mean, think about it. What actually do you think Aaron Rodgers has left in the tank? Isn't it funny how people thought that they were going to pull the Brady card and go to another football team? Russell Wilson tried it. Aaron Rodgers tried it, and it's been a train wreck. That shows you also the greatness a little bit of Tom Brady and what Brady brought to the table. He goes to Tampa Bay, and in the COVID year, this guy ends up winning a Super Bowl, and these other guys are falling flat on their face. When in Pittsburgh has it now turned into this? Hey, let's go 500. The terrible towels? You know what you do with the terrible towels now in Pittsburgh? You wipe your tears away for not being a contender in the Super Bowl any longer. You're just a dude now in the AFC. You're in the conversation with, hey, I hope we're 500. That's what you're rooting for in Pittsburgh with Aaron Rodgers and with Mike McCarthy. Pathetic in what's happened to that legendary franchise. On the other hand, the Bills. Hey, man, Josh Allen is my favorite quarterback in pro football. Homie, you got to win. And you got to win when it matters. And you know what that means? You got to win in the postseason. You make your money in the regular season. You make your legacy in the postseason. If you want to be considered one of the truly greats of all time, what's the one thing that still sidelines Dan Marino in that conversation? You know what it is? Never won a Super Bowl. Greatest quarterback ever to play in the NFL. Never won a Super Bowl. Has to have that on top of the cake. That cherry is what everyone looks at. That headline is what everyone wants to see. They want to know if you're a champion. And in my book, he's the best talent I've ever seen. Got a window, dude. The Patriots and the Browns will also be on display tonight. Patriots and Mike Vrabel. You know what was funny? I remember all the woke media and all the liberal people going, Mike Vrabel should be fired. Mike Vrabel, oh my God, because of the relationship that he had with Diana Rossini. This is unbecoming of a coach. Wait a second. You actually think anybody in New England cares about Mike Vrabel's marital status? Look at the owner of the football team. This guy got caught in a whorehouse. You think they matter and that matters in New England? What's the only thing that matters in New England? Winning. That's it. Like Charlie Sheen says, winning. That's it. They don't care about that stuff in New England. They want to go to another Super Bowl and they want to win it. They take on the Browns. Holy cow, we just got through laying into that idiot that's going to be the starting quarterback there in Deshaun Watson. Hey, Todd Monken, man, I really have a lot of respect for you, the brand new head football coach of the Cleveland Browns. What an unwinnable situation to be in. You know, when you take a job, you're hoping to, like, elevate the job. When you take the Browns job, you're hoping for your retirement pay and your 401k. And you're hoping to save every cent you have because most likely you'll never get a job ever again as a head coach if you take the Browns job. This is where people go to die on the vine when it comes to their careers. I mean, it's like taking the Jets job. Really? 49ers also will be in action. You got to take a look at the 49ers, okay? 49ers. Dude, what has happened? So let me get this right. Jed York is chasing $140 whores, and you got a head coach who just got into a car accident that nobody reported, and what? You're an aging team. Your owner just got caught with $140 when it came to a proposition of a hooker. I mean, I'm trying to figure out San Francisco. Dude, where are you going? I mean, unreal. The Raiders. Hey, I like actually what they're doing in Las Vegas. I like John Spytek, the general manager. I think Fernando Mendoza is going to put that program on the right map. I really do. I do. I like it, and I'm rooting for him. Rams and Chargers also tonight. Two Los Angeles teams that play in the same building. Rams obviously own the building with Stan Kroenke, the greatest sports owner in the world right now. This guy's won numerous championships in numerous platforms. And I do think the Rams, and I love what the Rams do. You know what my favorite thing about the Rams is? They look at those first-round draft choices, and you know what they say? I don't care. I've used only 3 of them in 11 years. When you're in Los Angeles, you care about stars. That's why you bring in Myles Garrett. That's right. You bring in guys like Trent McDuffie. That's why you go out and get a Matthew Stafford. That football team, in my opinion, has the best roster in all of pro football, both the defense and the offense. When's the last time you remember the reigning defensive player of the year and the MVP on the same football team? This team has to show up, though, in the fall, or it'll go down as one of the biggest disasters in all of pro football. Chargers, on the other hand, man, I love Justin Herbert. And boy, I'll tell you what, one of my favorite coaches of all time is Jim Harbaugh. Dude, that guy is a fist with a mouth. Every single place that dude has gone, he has won. And you know how he did it? He did it his way. Nobody's going to tell Jim Harbaugh how to run his football team. Jim Harbaugh, whether he was at the University of San Diego, whether he was at Stanford, Michigan, 49ers, he's won every single place because Jim Harbaugh does things his way. And he wears you out a little bit, but I'll tell you what, there is no doubt people want to coach with that. If you want to win football games, you hire a Harbaugh. Those people win football games. And one of my favorite quarterbacks in pro football, and by the way, he is my preseason favorite to win the NFL's MVP award, and that is Justin Herbert. I got a pretty good relationship with this guy when he was there playing at Oregon, when Mario Cristobal was the head coach of the Oregon Ducks. And I'm telling you, quality kid, leader, tough. How about last year when he beat the Eagles with no offensive tackles? Guy's absolutely one of the best players in the game. But here is also another quarterback that's got to close it up in the postseason. He's got to go win himself a championship to put that cherry on top of that cake as well. It's like Josh Allen. All right, so the Big Ten and the Southeastern Conference think they're doing the right thing by not allowing NFL players back into college football. Dog, we'll hit on that next here on SportsGrid. Man, there is just an absolute craziness going on with college football right now, and really college sports for that matter. Southeastern Conference and Big Ten are now debating whether or not to accept players that were in the NFL to come back into college football. I love the fact that they're challenging every single rule that the NCAA in their pathetic ways have been trying to install for the last 75 years. I love the fact that kids today are challenging all these idiotic rules. What's to say if a kid had eligibility left that he can't go to college? Why? Because the National Communist Association of America tells you so? That's their way of making laws and saying bylaws that will never hold up in court? SEC and Big Ten has made it clear that they don't want these players to come back. You know why they're doing that? Because they're doing it for public appearance. This will get annihilated in a courtroom. You're not going to go to a judge and say to a judge, hey, Your Honor, I'll tell you what I'd like to do. I was there in the NFL. I was at a job, and you know what? The job fired me. I still had an opportunity to go back because I had another year of eligibility to go play in college. These kids are now professional athletes now in college. That notion that you are amateur sports does not exist. And quite frankly, it hasn't existed for over 40 years. The only reason that you couldn't go back to college is because the NCAA and all of the conservative people that are in the media were saying this: hey, we got to keep and protect the sanctity of amateur athletics. This is not amateur athletics. Not when coaches are making $15 million a year. There's a quarterback right now at the University of Miami. His name is Darian Mensah, and this kid's making $6.5 million. Do you know he makes more money as the starting quarterback for the University of Miami than Shedeur Sanders will make this year as a quarterback for the Cleveland Browns? I mean, he's going to make more money than potentially a starting quarterback in Arizona with Carson Beck. He's going to make as much money as Jacoby Brissett. Don't tell me about amateur sports. College sports is no longer amateur. It's professional sports. You got both sides now paying exorbitant amounts of money, and I don't belittle the kids. By the way, there's an old saying that goes like this: hey, dude, don't hate the player, hate the game. Trump came up with something years and years ago. Hey, you don't like the tax code? Change it. You don't like the way things are going? Change it. There's no way the SEC and the Big Ten are going to win these cases in court. There's already an injunction with a player that's going to LSU, and they're allowing him because guess who sparked this? That was Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin, again, you can say whatever you want about him, but LSU was the first school, and now you have Texas Tech saying, yeah, we'll look at kids that were potentially going to be NFL players and bringing them back to the Red Raiders program. I don't have a problem with that. Why should you? I love it. I love the fact that these kids today are getting the opportunity to do those things and to get a chance to make as much money as they possibly can. For decades, conferences, television networks, and coaches have made millions and millions of dollars off of the cattle that they called student athletes. I'm not going to use the word that I'd like to use, but I'll use the word cattle. These guys are like cattle. And we were cattle for years that coaches made money. Listen, I don't have a problem with a coach making $14, $13 million a year. But when you start saying that a kid, there's a problem with a kid making money off his name and likeness. What's your issue with this? Could you imagine what a guy like Tim Tebow would be making today, or a guy like Deion Sanders, or a guy like Michael Irvin or Brian Bosworth? These guys would be taking out mortgages with homes in 8 different states. It's great that the NCAA is finally getting called out for what they have done for decades. That is holding student athletes back. You know, college is supposed to be a place where, guess what? Like Mark Zuckerberg, he goes and creates Meta, Facebook, or Bill Gates. These guys go and they create great brands. It used to mean that. Well, guess what? That's what kids are doing now in college. They're creating brands. They're creating business. They're creating wealth. And I love it. And I love the fact that you're seeing college football scrambling right now. And they're trying to put the genie back in the jar. They're never going to be able to do this. And in light of that, you have gambling involved now in sports. Gambling and paying student athletes. You got to love it. Who better to talk to than Tim Donaghy, the former NBA referee? We will get his thoughts. We'll talk about his book, Personal Foul, as well. We'll do that next, right here on SportsGrid. I got to tell you, one of the most polarizing people that I've had a chance to interview and talk in the past, we become friends, is Tim Donaghy, a former NBA referee who wrote the book Personal Foul. He's here with us now. And I got to tell you, after your book came out and all the stuff that we've went through and all the stuff that we've talked about, since the book came out, Tim, what's the number one thing that people come up to you and ask you since you put that book out?
How do you feel? Because obviously you weren't the only one. And I think my case was covered up pretty good through David Stern and the district attorney, who later left the United States Attorney's Office, Greg Andres, and took a job at a law firm and getting the outside legal counsel work for the NBA. So no doubt in my mind and other people's mind, even the FBI agents, that, he was involved in helping squash the whole situation with my case. And there were a lot of other people that were doing things, and they just covered them up to make me look like the one bad apple.
How about this, Tim? So in your opinion, you believe the NBA singled you out and made you the face of this one story? And not to name names, obviously we're not here for that, but for you, there were other folks that were maybe doing some sketchy things, and I'm talking other NBA referees, but Stern wanted you to be the face of this one story. And that's why you're known for this right now. And that the NBA kind of just swept this away.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I remember when he stood on the ESPN podium and said, legal gambling will cost you your job as an NBA referee, and illegal gambling will cost you your freedom. Meaning that any referee that bet because it was in our contract that you couldn't place a bet of any kind would be fired. Then they found out that 50 out of 58 NBA referees were gambling in more ways than one, but yet everybody was given a slap on the wrist and, told to just move along, keep quiet. And they just went after me and put 3 guys in a room in the NBA headquarters and made sure that all the blogs and everything were painting me as one bad apple. And I was the guy that, did everything and did everything alone.
How do other NBA referees look at you today? Guys that you worked with for years. You did so many years working with those guys. Did those guys ostracize you as well, and they haven't reached out to you? Have you ever had conversation with some of the NBA referees of the past and maybe some of the ones that are current?
For the most part, I really haven't spoken to any of them. There have been a few guys after retirement that have contacted me, or who were released from the staff for one reason or another. But for the most part, they still take a job working for the league office in some capacity. So, befriending me or talking to me might cost them that job. And, I haven't been able to really reconnect with any of them.
The impact that that book and the impact of your case, what's it had on your life?
It definitely, in the beginning, turned my life upside down, and I thought that there was no way I was going to ever be able to recover. Uh, you know, but I had 4 daughters, and I had to figure out a way to, support them and show them that, mistakes are made, and it's not about the mistake, but how you get up and recover from it. And I was very fortunate to get involved with a guy in the Sarasota area that was a great businessman and showed me the ins and outs of getting involved in buying properties at a good price at auction or in bidding through different websites, and started to create a little bit of a real estate empire. And now I have several rental properties that I manage myself, and I'm very fortunate that I bought them at a very cheap price, and the real estate here has exploded along with rent, so was able to rebuild my life that way.
So you've basically been able to like reinvent yourself in a way. And maybe at the end of the day, all the things that you went through, here you are, maybe potentially in a better place and a better peace of mind.
No doubt about it. I can tell you, when I first started this process, I didn't have a screwdriver. Now, if you went into my garage, you would see, all different, you know, kinds of tools that you never thought you would be operating or learning about. And, you do things to, try to save money and do things that, you can maybe, help the other guy out who helps you out, who owns property. So there's a lot of give and take in doing things in the real estate world and getting help in different ways from other people and making things work.
Boy, I'll tell you what, the sports gambling industry has just exploded now with the court decision years ago that allowed it. And you see it everywhere. It's at both levels right now. And I'll ask you, Tim, do you think that NBA referees today, in your opinion, not knowing if they, a particular story, but do you believe NBA referees today place wagers?
I would hope not, and I would doubt it, because I think they've seen what can happen when you do something like that. In my case, you not only do you lose your job, but you lose your freedom. In my case, I not only lost my job, my freedom, but a divorce in my family, and it was tough to go through that, because that was the biggest worry, especially when you're spending 15 months in a federal prison, was how you're going to support your 4 daughters and make sure that they're healthy and happy moving forward, because they were used to a certain form of lifestyle, and you wanted them to not suffer because of your mistakes.
How about this, Tim? And I think it's a great story. It's a great rehabilitation story for those out there. And I think you're a great story here for folks. But with gambling being the way it is, the temptations have to be even greater than when you were approached by people. If you could tell us a little bit, how did they approach you on how you were able to start to manipulate the game a little bit? And you would have to think, right, Tim, today, with all the money that's out there in gambling of today, there's got to be more issues out there for referees in both football, basketball, whatever sport it is, for them to be able to try to stay away from. What are some of the signs that you would think that people should stay away from?
I was a member of the country club, and there was a lot of guys there that I enjoyed hanging out with, going to the casinos with, that were big sports gamblers. And, they would just ask me at times who I thought would win a certain game. And unfortunately, I knew who was officiating from looking at the master schedule, and that there are relationships that existed, both positive and negative, between referees and coaches, referees and players, and referees and owners. and that spilled out onto the floor, and maybe a point spread would be off by 4, 5, or even 6 points because of those relationships. And I would just pass that information along to my buddies at the country club, and they started using it and making money off of those picks. And, it just spilled into a situation where then I started to cross a line. And if I was in a morning meeting and I came across information that I knew affected that line and that point spread on what the 3 officials would do that night, I would also pass that information along to them. And, we were winning at a rate of 70 to 80% with the sports picks. And it was just like knowing the winning lottery numbers before the lottery was drawn.
So Tim, for you, it was more about insider information more than actually in-game stuff. Did you ever find yourself in-game under pressure to make sure that you had to have a particular call or not? Because from what I'm understanding, you told me this before, and correct me if I'm wrong, the league office, if you're in a playoff game, will come to you and go, hey, we're being a little tight on this here down on the box. Let's be a little bit lesser down there when it comes to Shaquille O'Neal or somebody like that. And I'm just using a name. Did you feel pressure because all of a sudden now that, you were looking at the points that you felt that maybe in a game that you would call a penalty or you would call a foul on somebody that maybe would help that line?
Dan, we won so much, there was never any pressure on me to go out there and send a star player to the bench with 3, 4, quick fouls. And when it came to the playoff times, they would put us in a room as officials and show us plays that they wanted us to call on a given night. And those plays always went for the team that was down in the series and against the team that was up in the series. And we would walk out of the room saying they wanted a certain team to win tonight because it was 2-0 or 3-0. And we all know when these playoff series go to 3-2, 3-3, game 5, 6, and 7, you make a heck of a lot of money than you do when you have a 3-4-0 sweep. So the bottom line was it all came down to money.
Absolutely there. So, Tim, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the landscape of college sports and professional sports next with gambling. We'll do that next with Tim Donaghy right here on SportsGrid.
I know you didn't. Talk.
I'm innocent. Got the wrong guy. It wasn't me. I didn't do anything. Okay, it was me. I did it.
Bringing an owl to an interrogation? That's a power move.
Every time.
Yeah. Hiring America's largest injury law firm for your injury? That's also a power move. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
a great conversation we're having with Tim Donaghy, the author of Personal Foul, the referee that spent time in prison for gambling and point shaving here, is just being as honest as he possibly can here. And boy, I'll tell you something, Tim. You said something that maybe that really reared its head, and even in this recent finals here, how much pressure is on NBA referees to get these games into a series where it goes 6-7? When you're out there, especially in a playoff series, how much pressure comes on you guys by the commissioners, say like Adam Silver or back in the day, David Stern?
You know, like we discussed before, there's morning meetings where they show you plays of tapes, from the previous games that went on, and they're grading you. They're grading those three referees that night. So whatever they're telling you to call in that morning meeting, you're going to go out and do it. And they're always showing you plays that they say they want called that the other three officials missed in previous games. And those plays are always going against the team that's up in the series and for the team that's down in the series, which really changes, the landscape of what goes on, because you're looking for certain things and it's putting a team at advantage and a disadvantage. And that's how they go out and they get these games to go, 5, 6, and 7 games without telling the referees to go out and fix them. They're just telling them what to concentrate on, because we're grading you tonight. You want a good grade because you want to get more games and advance into the next round and make a heck of a lot more money. So you're going to do whatever they tell you to do. And it just manipulates the series into going, further 4, 5, 6, 7 games where they want it, and create a lot more revenue for the owners and the league.
Tim, so again, it's not so much that they're telling these guys, hey, don't call this or don't call that. What they're telling people is this: you see this play here? This is a little too tight. So you're going to back off that play. And it's basically setting the deck, isn't it? You're not telling anybody to throw anything, but you're setting the deck.
Absolutely you are, because like I said, as an official, if you're in the first round, you want to get to the second round. If you're in the second round, you want to get to the third round. You're in the third round, you want to be a finals ref. And you're going to go out and do whatever they tell you to do in those morning meetings, so you get a high grade and you have the possibility of advancing into the next round and making a heck of a lot more money than if you didn't. So if they're telling you to concentrate on certain plays and call them, you're going to do it. And again, it's a situation where they're putting the home team that's up in the series at a disadvantage, and the away team that needs a couple wins at an advantage, so the series goes further.
No doubt about it. How do you think the NBA is ref today? Do you think you see, are there still telltale signs of that behavior, that the league office controls really what and how many teams move forward? What team doesn't maybe move forward? How do you think the league is being ref today?
I think that you're still seeing, in my mind, that the referees are officiating the game not based on how the rules are written in the rule book, but the names on the front and the back of the jerseys. I still see LeBron James take 4, 5, and 6 steps to the basket and dunk the ball, and there's no traveling called. So there's definitely a situation where some of the star players are still getting preferential treatment, and some of the other players are not. And it's a matter of refereeing the names on the jerseys rather than the rules and enforcing them as they're written in the rule book.
Tim, do you think that gambling is good for sports today and where it is? I mean, the National Football League, DraftKings, FanDuel, what have you, all of these are now business partners of the National Football League and the NBA. Do you think it's good, or do you think it's a detriment to these leagues?
I think it's a detriment, because when you talk about these prop bets, I think they have to get them, off the board to where these players aren't tempted to, come up with an injury or not get 10 rebounds because that's what the over under is for them, or score a certain amount of points because, they're telling their buddy that they're not going to do it that night, so that the buddy can go bet $100,000 and collect the money. I think the prop bets are what's really detrimental and hurtful to these leagues. Not so much the point spread, because I don't really think that you're going to get some of these players to go out and fix a game based on the point spread. But I think you're always going to have the temptation of them, being in a room with their buddies, discussing games and saying, hey, you know what? I'm not going to get 10 rebounds today. Take the under, or, I'm going to go extra home. Michael Jordan at times would tell his buddies that, I'm going to score 50 points tonight. You watch. And they knew, that he was going to go out and give an extra effort, and he was not going to come out of the game, even if the team was, winning by 20 at the end. like we see them all do, he was going to wait till he scored 50 points because that's what he told his buddies he was going to do that day.
Were you ever suspicious of an NBA player? There was just a recent case a year ago with gambling with NBA players, and there was with Chauncey Billups being involved in it, the head basketball coach of the Portland Trailblazers. Were you ever suspicious of a player point shaving in an NBA game?
Not a player, but I was suspicious of a coach one time because it was, very little time left on the clock, and I knew that the point spread in that game was 10 or 11 points, and he was playing his team so hard. He was really bitching about every little call with like 20 seconds left. And when I looked at the final score and calculated the point spread, I said to myself, something's off there, because why was he so adamant that, and coaching so hard when there was, he had lost and he was down by 10. And I think that, it was just very strange that what he was doing with the coaching so hard when it really didn't matter there at the end, when most teams just sit back, take their stars out and let the clock run out.
What do you think of gaming in all sports today, especially in the college end? There was a kid by the name of Brandon Sorsby who had placed over 9,000 bets when he was at Indiana, Cincinnati, and it totaled roughly around $75,000. And he was told that he could not play in college football any longer. College kids gambling and the college game. Is that a problem for you, Tim?
Yeah, for sure. I don't think that they're really educating these student athletes on the pitfalls of what they're supposed to do and not do. I've spoken at many colleges over the years about this topic and how you really need to stay away from certain situations, who you're hanging out with and what you're doing, and know that you could cost yourself a scholarship or your ability to play at the college level if you're placing bets. And I think you really need to put more education into these student athletes so they know the pitfalls of what they're supposed to do and not do.
Absolutely great. I mean, so you go to colleges and you educate kids, especially with the amount of money that's being generated with nil. And they've got all these resources now, Tim, where they can go and just place these bets, $5,000 bets, $7,000 bets. And like you said, back in the day, there was a thing called, the yellow sheet. And, we were just making $5 bets back in the day. These guys today are making $5,000 bets. I implore you guys to get personal foul with Tim Donaghy. Tim, we'll do this again. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you.
Final thoughts next here on SportsGrid. So the National Football League is trying to send out smoke signals to its fan base that the NFL is now all of a sudden caring about the players that they put on football fields each and every single Sunday. So they now have come out with these new rules. Let me read them right here. You can't do the hip drop tackle any longer. You can't do the horse collar, which has been in place for a while now. You can't do any of the stuff when it comes to blindside blocks. You can't any longer have hits on the quarterback again and detrimental hits on players, dangerous hits. And people will say, boy, look at what the National Football League is now doing to try to help protect players. Why do you think you institute rules like this? Points. They want more scoring. Tim Donaghy just said it. They want prop bets. The less contact you have in the sport, the more offense you create in the sport. The National Football League doesn't want 21-20 games. They want 35-31 games. Why? It keeps you engaged. You know, back in the day, when the National Football League had a game on a Sunday that was a 31-7 game, most people would check out of those games. But because of fantasy football and because of all these fantasy leagues, why are you engaged on a Sunday with a 31-7 score where your team is being killed? Because you have a prop bet. You're hoping for your guy to get 100 yards, a touchdown in the fourth quarter, an extra yard, an extra catch. That's what sports is now in with these guys when it comes to prop bets, especially the National Football League. Folks, the National Football League is not here to protect the players. You want to add another game, and you want to play on Thursday. Hell, the National Football League would like to play 20 games. They've made it very clear, Roger Goodell has said that. 20 games? The National Football League does not care about the safety of the players whatsoever, and they never have. They're commodities. They're cattle. And rules like this are superficial. Rules like this are not there to protect the players. Rules like this are there to protect the cash register. There's a reason that the National Football League wants to have a European team or a team overseas somewhere, so they could start the calendar and the cash register earlier, and that time from 6 a.m. Pacific time all the way until midnight. Look at that cash register. I've said this before. Hey, God used to own Sundays. The National Football League owns Sundays now, especially when it comes to making money. Dude, these rules that have been instituted mean nothing. The hip drop tackle is one of the tackles that has been going on for over 100 years in that sport. It's a technique that many players have mastered. My daughter uses the hip drop tackle in rugby. It's been in place for over 100 years. Horse collar, I get it. That rule was put in place back in the 1980s. So when you're putting these rules out there, the league is not looking to protect its players. It's looking to go and make as much money as they can when it comes to prop bets and when it comes to sports gambling. The less rules, the more points. The more inability to be able to hit a quarterback or hit a wide receiver, this is where you're going to make your money. Look, back in the 1980s and 1990s, wide receivers didn't chirp. They would get their faces knocked off if they came across the line of scrimmage and started chirping the way they chirp. There was no such thing as diva wide receivers because somebody like Ronnie Lott would put you in the hospital. Now, you've got these guys chirping because you know why? The league doesn't want you hitting these guys. They don't want you hitting the quarterback. The two most protected positions in pro football are what? Wide receiver and quarterback. And why are those two positions the most coveted positions in all of sports today? Because that's your money makers. There's three areas where the league makes money: extra points and field goals, wide receivers, and NFL. If you really wanted to change the kickoff rules in the NFL, don't change the actual kickoff of the game. Take the extra point away. Take the field goals away. What happens after every extra point and after every field goal? A commercial stop set. NFL makes on the extra point the NFL makes with all of their games on a Sunday, Thursday, or Monday. They make as much as $7 million a game. In one respect, it stops that. Of course they want the extra point. It's all about the cash register. And these new rules that the league is putting in and that the NFL Players Association is now okay with. Remember, we have the weakest union, which I'm a member of, still to this day, in the history of American sports. That is the NFL Players Association. When's the last time that organization looked out for a guy who played in this sport for 20 years, who's now basically needing of medical care? Doesn't happen. Folks, I appreciate you. We'll see you tomorrow, 12 to 1 Eastern. Catch you on the flip side.